Happy Saturday. It is July 2nd, 2022 as of the time of this recording. So I'm going to be discussing NBA free agency as I promised. So here we go. So I'm going to talk about it for about a half hour till probably around 1:30 and discuss some of the major moves made thus far. Right now, it is day 3 of NBA free agency. Now, the biggest story thus far, as you know, before I get into that, for those of you guys coming in, feel free to leave a comment in the chat, say hello, also drop a like. If you're new and subscribe, do so. Even if you're not watching this live, even if you're watching this after it's been recorded, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think about what I say throughout this stream. But let's get right into it. So the biggest story thus far of NBA free agency actually isn't a signing or a trade that has happened yet. It is the news that our small forward Kevin Durant of the Brooklyn Nets has requested a trade. It broke Thursday on day 1 that Durant requested a trade early afternoon. It's been the hot topic since. So there have been the talks about he might want to go to the Suns. The 3 main teams been linked to are the Phoenix Suns, Los Angeles Lakers, and Miami Heat. Now, we don't know exactly where he's going to go yet. Remember, the move hasn't been made yet, so let's not buy into it yet. We don't know what's going to actually happen yet. Now, I think out of those teams, the most likely would be the Phoenix Suns at this point. So that's what I think would be most likely, because the Miami Heat, I don't know how that would work with Durant and Butler being on the same team. I don't know where you would move. Who would you move in that position? Would you move Butler to guard at that point? And I don't know. That could happen, though, but I don't know if Jimmy's going to be happy about that, because Jimmy's happy with that max contract. I don't think he'd be too happy with Durant coming in, possibly taking up some space. I don't know. So I don't know if that would work right there. I think the Suns maybe would be most likely, but I don't know how Devin Booker would feel about that. I mean, it's an interesting scenario, though. But definitely Kevin Durant will be interesting to see what happens with him in the coming days. We'll be paying attention to that. And even though Kyrie did decide to rejoin the Nets, for the 2022-2023 season, now the rumors again are sprouting up that Kyrie could be on the move, guys. He just rejoined the Nets, all right? Some of you guys are trying to maximize off this Durant trade request by trying to push out the Kyrie rumors out there. First off, we don't know what's going to happen right there. And for those of you guys tuning in, you feel free to leave a comment. Let me know, who do you see? Where do you see possibly that Kevin Durant could end up landing? You guys can feel free to let me know in the chat. Where do you see him likely to land? Do you see him possibly going to the Suns, Lakers, Heat, or elsewhere possibly? Let me know in the chat how you feel about that right there. But Durant, that's going to be the big story right there. I mean, so far, it's just a lot of talk and speculation that he's going to sign somewhere. We haven't heard anything official yet. There's still no official move yet. And I have some of my browsers up. I have my NBA.com free agency tracker browser right here. I mean, so far, we haven't had anything yet. As far as Kevin Durant, making a move, I mean, we have a bunch of other moves, though, that have been coming in. So let's keep this. We'll keep an eye out on Kevin Durant, see what happens. In the meantime, let's keep this thing rolling, shall we? So John Wall has signed a 2-year deal with the Clippers. So when he was waived by the Rockets earlier in the week, everyone was linking him to the Clippers. Now it is official. So he has signed with the Los Angeles Clippers on a 2-year deal. Now, John Wall has missed 2 of the last 3 seasons. He missed the 2020-2021 season with an injury. No, it was actually 2019-2020 he missed with an Achilles injury. He did play 2020-2021 with the Rockets. He was still producing a typical John Wall statistics like he did with the Wizards. But then last season, he sat out the whole season. So now he's come to the Clippers after missing 2 of the last 3 seasons. Now, we'll see if he's still able to play at a high level, see if he's able to stay healthy, or if he's going to show some rust after missing a whole season. We'll have to see what happens right there. So John Wall in 2 years, I guess 2 years makes sense because, you don't know because there is the risk factor to bringing him in considering his rust recently. But I guess they're trying to add John Wall so they can have some depth pieces because they saw how not having Kawhi last year hurt them. They clearly missed out without Kawhi last year, and they had to play in the play-in tournament. They didn't get to the playoffs. So clearly the Clippers are looking to add some depth right there. That's why they're bringing in John Wall. They're hoping John Wall can, let's say, be John Wall pretty much is what they're hoping for. So obviously they're looking to add some depth right there because they need that right there. So obviously we'll see how that plays out right there. So that's the main move the Clippers have made thus far. There have been some other moves the Clippers have made, which I'll get into that in a little bit. But yes, John Wall is officially signed with the Los Angeles Clippers, and we'll have to see. Well, he could turn out to be a good depth piece as long as he plays, as long as he doesn't get injured, and we'll have to see what happens right there. That'll be an interesting one right there. Also, we got a big move here with the Celtics and the Pacers. So I'm pulling up my browser so I can read it exactly. So here's the exact trade between the Indiana Pacers and Boston Celtics. So the Celtics receive Malcolm Brogdon. Pacers receive Aaron Nesmith, Daniel Theis, Nick Stakus, Malik Fitz, Juwan Morgan, and the 2023 first-round pick. So that's next year's first. So obviously the Celtics are looking to add a big piece to their team. They fell short in the finals right there. And they know they got Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, Marcus Smart, but now they want to add another key piece. And we know Malcolm Brogdon, he was one of the contributing factors on offense for the Pacers last year. He was one of the better points of a disappointing season for the Pacers. And the Celtics see some value in Malcolm Brogdon. That's obviously why they're giving up a lot to trade him. And the Pacers, they're going to get some bench pieces right there. It's not any bench piece that really spark, the Pacers are going to turn it around next year. But obviously the Pacers, they need to get something in return for this trade. They're trying to build up their bench so they can have a better bench. They still have some decent starters, so obviously they're looking to get better there. But time will tell how that works out, and we'll still have to see what the Pacers and Celtics do throughout the rest of free agency. But for the Celtics, so they're looking to obviously hope Malcolm Brogdon helps them get over the hump right there to add some depth along with Tatum Brown. So we'll have to see how that pans out. I mean, this could work out, possibly. Now, if Brogdon unfortunately struggles with injuries, doesn't fit in with the Celtics rotation, this could backfire, but time will tell what happens right there. We'll have to see what happens right there. So that's an interesting one right there. This could have the potential to work out for the Celtics right there. Give them that depth on offense if all things work as they plan. But we will have to see how that one works out right there. So that's another interesting one right there for the Pacers. They do get some bench pieces, though, but still, it's going to be a while for the Pacers truly get back into the swing of things, especially with a lot of the bad luck they've had in recent years. I think it's going to be a while for the Pacers, really make something out of it, though. So I don't think it's overnight fix for the Pacers. For the Celtics, it's either, we'll have to see how this pans out right. This could help them get over the hump, or they'll stay in a similar position. And they'll fall short in the future. We'll have to see what happens right there. And, of course, we got the Rudy Gobert trade came in. That was the big story yesterday. So the package is the Minnesota Timberwolves received Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz. Well, the Jazz received Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Leonardo Bolmaro, Walker Kessler, Jared Vanderbilt, 2023 first, 2025 first, 2026 pick swap, 2027 first, and then 2029 first protected. So the Timberwolves, they really gave up a lot for Rudy Gobert. Now, Rudy Gobert is one of the top defensive players in the league as of right now. Now, he has made the All-Star game in 3 consecutive seasons to his career with average 15 points, 13.9 rebounds. He's been selected to the first NBA All-Defensive Team first for 6 straight seasons. So they're bringing in one of the top defensive players in the NBA. But I'm thinking the Timberwolves gave up a little too much for him because they gave up some of their key bench pieces for him. So they gave that up, and they gave up a bunch of future picks for him. Now, this just seems like a big reach by the Timberwolves, in my opinion, right there. Now, the Jazz, though, they get some extra depth pieces on the bench, so they could possibly, if all things work out in their favor and they stay healthy, we could be talking about the Utah Jazz possibly being contenders out west going forward. They could possibly compete with the Warriors and the Suns going forward. So this could possibly work out for the Jazz, especially in all those future draft picks they got if they play their cards right. But I think the Timberwolves, they gave up too much to get Rudy Gobert. Now, they got one of the top defensive players. I'll give them that. So they get that there to go along with Towns, right? So they get that. So they get some help there, but I think they gave up too much. And you go Towns and Wiggins, but they gave up too much, in my opinion, right there. This seems like a typical Minnesota Timberwolves move. I think this is going to backfire in the long run on them. If you guys and Watsons, you can let me know your opinion in the live chat of the Rudy Gobert trade. If you agree, disagree. So, yeah, I think definitely the Jazz are definitely potential winners from this right here. And not to mention with Rudy Gobert, another factor is him and Donovan Mitchell have had a rocky relationship as teammates. They've, kind of, so I guess the Jazz were feeling like, okay, this has been a rocky relationship with these two. So I don't know if we want to continue to run the risk that this is going to continue and that Gobert and Mitchell's relationship could sour over time. So they just figured, hey, we'll find a team that's willing to give up something for Rudy Gobert. And ultimately, it worked out in their favor. They found the Timberwolves were willing to give up a lot to them. So ultimately, they got that burden of worrying about the Mitchell-Gobert relationship off their back. So, yeah, I do think definitely that's another reason the Jazz are winners from this trade right there. So I guess clearly see the Utah Jazz are the winners of this trade right there. Also, we got one of the early moves that was made, the Dejounte Murray trade with the Atlanta Hawks and San Antonio Spurs. So this was obviously a surprising one. Dejounte Murray, an all-star, or in his 20s, getting traded to the Atlanta Hawks from the San Antonio Spurs. So here's the trade packet. So the Hawks traded Danilo Garnelli and 3 first-round picks for Dejounte Murray. So let's see, the 3 first-round picks now. Obviously, the Spurs are in rebuild mode. I think the Spurs realized after the past couple of years that they have no choice but to rebuild at this point. So they were willing to trade away their star player for 3 future firsts, and they're going to try to use those future firsts to rebuild for the future. So the Spurs are definitely in rebuild mode right there. I mean, we saw this coming a mile away. We were thinking a few years back that the Spurs might be tanking soon to try to rebuild. We saw the rebuild coming inevitably. Well, technically they were already in rebuild mode, but we saw it was inevitable for the Spurs finally had to look themselves in the mirror and say, okay, yeah, we got to rebuild. We got to pull off some big move that we can use to help rebuild for the future. And that's what they're doing right here. They're giving up their star player, the only star player they have, for 3 future firsts because they know, yes, Dejounte Murray's a nice piece, but okay, obviously that's not going to be enough for the future going forward. So obviously they're figuring, okay, we got to rebuild and we got to rebuild now. Now for the Hawks, now they get the 1-2 punch with Trae Young, Dejounte Murray. Now the interesting part about this is going to see them transition because both Murray and Young get a lot of play time, a little ball time on, Murray with the Spurs and Young with the Hawks got a lot of ball time, and they were sort of to carry the offense. Now you're taking 2 guys who have relied heavily on carrying the offense, and now they're going to be playing together as teammates. So it's going to be interesting to see how 2 ball-heavy offensive guys work out that ball time as teammates. Now, obviously, it can work out definitely. They can adjust to it. They can adjust to sharing possession of the ball, which if they both embrace their roles, that works perfectly right there because then they won't have to carry as big a load, which can be beneficial to the team going forward. Trae Young won't have to rely on carrying the Hawks as much. Dejounte Murray won't have to rely on carrying the offense with as much ball time because they'll be splitting more ball time. So that'll help out in their favor right there. So that's going to be – so I do think this could potentially work out for the Hawks right there. Now, do I think this makes them contenders? No, I don't think that's going to be quite enough to make them contenders, but I definitely think they'll be better next season as long as, everything works out in their favor health-wise, as long as Murray and Young have the right chemistry as teammates. They'll definitely be better next season. They shouldn't have to try to worry about being a play-in team next year. They should at least get between the 1 and 6 seed next year if all things pan out. Now, for the Spurs, obviously, they're in rebuild mode. So, obviously, they realize it. They've embraced it. They know they got those future first round picks right there. There's a chance. Looks like the Spurs might be tanking this year. I mean, it's been a long, long time since we've seen that from the San Antonio Spurs. And for some of us, we've lived our whole lifetime seeing the Spurs as contenders. And now, for the first time, we're seeing them in a true rebuild mode right there, such as myself included. So I guess it looks like it could be tank city for the Spurs this upcoming season, but as long as they invest their future first properly, they could rebuild off it sometime down the line. So, but we'll have to wait a few years down the line to see how the Spurs benefit from this trade. And the Hawks will be able to tell within the next year or two with how they benefit from this trade right there. But there is definitely potential for both sides to win right here in this one. The Hawks could definitely get a win out of this. And the Spurs, they have potentially winners in the future. But time will tell. Time will tell on that one right there. It's a big one right there. So, obviously, the Hawks, it looks like they're making some other moves as well. There, so what was the other move the Hawks made? I can't remember off the top of my head. What was that other move? Because I know the Hawks made another move. Okay, but the Hawks also got Jock Landale from the Spurs too as part of that trade. Okay, they got Jock Landale too. I know the Hawks are looking to make another trade too. They're looking to make another trade too. So they will see what happens right there. But we'll be keeping an eye out for that right there. So now, in another big deal, the New York Knicks, the Philadelphia 76ers, division rival New York Knicks, signed Jalen Brunson from the Dallas Mavericks. So obviously that's a loss for the Mavericks right there. They couldn't make a deal to re-sign Brunson. But now for the New York Knicks, this will be interesting. For the Knicks' sake, they better, putting aside my bias as a Sixers fan, the Knicks better hope this isn't like the last big free agent signing with Kemba Walker. Obviously, we know that worked so well for them that they traded him to the Pistons, right? But anyway, the point being that, so Jalen Brunson, now the Knicks better hope this works out better right there in their favor. Now, Brunson, he's going to be the main piece for the Knicks this upcoming season. So, now Brunson did have a good run, though, with the Mavs there. But now it'll be interesting to see, how does Jalen Brunson do now that he's transitioning from being a key player on Luka Doncic's team now to being the main guy on the New York Knicks. So, see, that's where things are going to change right here. That's where it changes, because now Jalen Brunson's entering the territory where has the responsibility of being the main guy to lead a team, though. So we'll have to see how that works out. Is he still going to be able to help? But then again, he's dealing with the New York Knicks, who have, to say the least, been disappointing the past 5 years, minus that one run they had, in 2020-2021 season where they made it to the playoffs as number 5 seed against the Atlanta Hawks. Minus that run, what have the Knicks done the past 5 years? Now you're talking about Jalen Brunson's coming to that team, expecting to be the leader of that team. How's he going to do carrying that team with less around him than what he had at the Mavericks? So, see, that's what I'm curious about right here. This is going to test how Jalen Brunson can lead, though. Not from being a guy on a Luka Doncic-led team. Now he's going to have to be the guy to lead the Knicks. So I'm curious how that's going to play out right there. I mean, we'll have to see if Jalen Brunson can actually lead the Knicks. He could actually take a step forward in becoming one of the top players. But if he just does so-so and the Knicks only get so far, then we're going to be looking at it and be like, oh, typical Knicks move. They paid a role player facing the franchise deal, and it backfired. I mean, we could be talking about another one of those situations, but we'll have to see what happens right there. So we have that right there. And then there have been some other re-signings right there. So we got about 10 minutes left of this stream right here. Hold on, I'm going to grab a sip of water real quick. I'll be right back to it. Okay, so this is a quick sip of water. And for those of you guys coming in, if you haven't done so already, drop a like to help out in the algorithm. Also, feel free to post a comment in the live chat right there. So say hello, whether you know how you feel about certain situations, whether you agree or disagree with what I'm saying. Feel free to just leave a comment in the live chat. It's helpful out for the algorithm, makes this thing more fun. So if you're coming in, please do so. So now we're starting to wind down a little bit. Talk about the main subjects right here. Now we're going to talk about some key re-signings right here. So right now we know we had Zach LaVine. He re-signed a max deal with the Chicago Bulls. Now, look, I don't think that was a smart idea right there by the Bulls to give him a max contract. Now, now hear me out first. Hear me out. Now, Zach LaVine, he's obviously the best player on the Bulls. Zach LaVine is a very good basketball player, but is he truly in a superstar? I mean, Zach LaVine, is he truly like a true face of the franchise superstar type guy? Ask yourself that question if you're watching this. To me, Zach LaVine is not that dude. Now, he's a very good player, but he's not like a LeBron James in his prime or Steph Curry type player. He's not like a Joel Embiid is right now. He's not like the Luka Doncic level where he's at recent years. Now, look, Zach LaVine is a very good player, but he's not at that level right there. So I think giving him a max deal, making him the face of the franchise, might come back to bite the Bulls in the long term. Now, that can still be a playoff team based on this, but in terms of being able to truly compete and contend, I think this can backfire against the Bulls right there. I only think this is going to take them so far, though. I think when you make Zach LaVine the face of your franchise, that's only going to get you so far, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, he's a very good player, but it's not going to be a championship team with Zach LaVine as the face of your franchise. That's just the way I see it right there. So I think that was a mistake right there to give him the max deal right there, even though he is the top player on the team, but I don't think he's a true championship team face of the franchise type player, though. And that's just my opinion right there. So I think that might be a mistake that it's only going to allow the Bulls to go so far in the future right there. And obviously we know Russell Westbrook is going to rejoin the Lakers, which I think that's bad for the Lakers right there. I mean, Russell Westbrook's rejoining them. I mean, you saw what he played last year. And you saw his attitude. You remember back, what was it, late April, early May, when he made those comments trying to basically imply that everyone else in the Lakers was at fault for how bad the previous season went. He wasn't blaming them, taking any accountability for his air balls at all. For his turnovers, he didn't take any accountability, wanted to blame everyone else for it. And these guys going to be coming back to the same team after that? I think that's terrible re-signing right there. But something else is in mind. Miles Bridges, while it's still on my mind. How stupid is that to get arrested the day before free agency started? And if there's one thing you point to as to why Miles Bridges hasn't been in negotiation with teams these past couple days, well, it's obvious now. Because you decide to be an idiot and get arrested on a serious charge, mind you, the night before free agency started. Just stupid right there. When you're in a position where you have a lot to lose, you better conduct yourself professionally. Don't do anything stupid when you have a lot to lose. Don't get yourself in serious trouble. And that's the one lesson we can take away from the Miles Bridges situation. Now, I'm not going to get too in-depth with that, but I decided to at least address it. It was at least worthy of addressing real quickly. Please, don't do something stupid like that. And speaking of stupid things, I know this is off subject with NBA free agency, but if you're going out this weekend, this 4th of July weekend, if you're going to go out and drink, please, I already posted this on my Twitter, but please don't drink and drive. If you're going to get intoxicated, please have a designated sober driver, call a taxi, call an Uber, call a Lyft to transport you back home safely. Please don't be the idiot that goes out, drinks and drives, get yourself arrested, get yourself hurt, or possibly somebody else killed. Please don't be that idiot this weekend. So I decided to say that while I'm still on subject with life advice. But back to the NBA free agency discussion right now. So as we know, other deals right there. Robert Covington has re-signed with the Clippers, so they still got that extra depth piece. And they're obviously hoping Kawhi comes back. He's healthy next year. So what I'm doing right now is I'm on NBA.com, free agency tracker. For those of you guys that are joining in the stream, if you want to follow along with me on NBA.com, I'll put the link to it in the chat. There, you can follow it right there. So I'm going to look around and see. Okay, so we got, Zion Williamson looks like he's going to re-sign with the Pelicans. Now, we know he was putting on weight. He was out throughout most of the season. Now, the Pelicans, this is a risky move right here. Now, I know Zion, his first couple years was looking good. His career was trending upward, but if with all the weight he's put on, the injuries, this could be a risky move. Better hope he loses weight and gets himself back into shape. And that, he comes back and he's still able to play at a productive level. So, Pelicans are making a risky move right here, but we'll see if it pays out. We'll see what happens for them. So that's the thing with Zion re-signing. So what else? Going to go through real quick. So we got a couple minutes left. I'm going to go through some of the other players that are still. Oh, who else? What else do we got right there? So I'm looking at, we got LaMarcus Aldridge is still a free agent. Kyle Anderson from the Grizzlies is still available. Giannis Antetokounmpo has re-signed with the Bucks, so he'll still be there with Giannis. Carmelo Anthony's still a free agent, but he'll probably go late. He'll be the guy that a team that's looking to add that one extra role player brings in. It's not prime Carmelo. DJ Augustine's still a free agent right there. DeAndre Ayton's still available. Marvin Bagley III still available. Nick Batum's still available. Bradley Beal hasn't made a move yet. Still have my fingers crossed that he could come to the Sixers. Fingers crossed. Bradley Beal can still come to the Sixers. Fingers crossed. Oh, yeah. Tony Bradley is re-signed with the Bulls. And you got Oshae Brissett has re-signed with the Pacers. Yet Troy Brown Jr. from the Bulls is now signed with the Lakers. Oh, you got Trey Burke to the Rockets from the Mavs. So the Mavs lost another piece right there. So far, not a good free agency for the Mavs right there. They're going to have to hope they pull off some moves right there. You've got Pat Connaughton has re-signed with the Bucks. Who else you got? Oh, yeah, DeMarcus Cousins is still available right now. At this point, though, he's basically a one-year rental at this point. Yeah, Bobo is still available, looks like. DeAndre Bembry's still available, looks like. So let me see. I'm going to update my browser and see if there's any big news going on yet. So if there's any other big major transactions that have occurred yet. Okay, so the Milwaukee Bucks signed AJ Green to a two-way contract. So Jabari Smith Jr. has some. So some of the rookies are now signing. Those are the main moves right there. Lakers signed Scottie Pippen Jr. to a two-way. The Philadelphia 76ers signed Trevelyan Queen to a contract. Just keep bringing in those old players from the Rockets, Daryl Morey. Just keep bringing them in. And I talked about the PJ Tucker thing in a video yesterday. I jokingly said that the Houston 76ers now in contention to win the 2018 NBA Finals. I made that joke right there, but I don't like that PJ Tucker deal. I mean, 3 years at this stage in his career. If it were a one-year veterans deal, I mean, I still wouldn't be my favorite move in the world, but 3 years, I'm not liking it right there. So I discussed most of the main moves I wanted to talk about in this live stream right here. So everyone that tuned in, thank you for tuning in to this live stream. Even if you're watching it after it's been recorded, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't done so already and you're watching this video, drop a like to help out the algorithm. Feel free to leave a comment. Subscribe if you're new and you haven't done so. Have a wonderful, safe Saturday night. Nicky Stee signing off. And remember, again, if you're going out this weekend and you're going to drink, please do so safely. Call an Uber, Lyft, taxi, or have a designated sober driver. Do not drink and drive while intoxicated. That's all I'm going to say right there. Nicky Stee signing off. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you for my next vid.